Tonight, from war to a war of words over who's come out on top as the US and Iran begin talks for peace. Donald Trump may have signed the tentative agreement, but it's his vice president who is the face of it.
Are you worried that he's going to make you the fall guy?
No, not at all. I mean, I think the president was joking.
Israel is already challenging the pact, showing how its forces have taken over more of southern Lebanon.
It requires that we not leave there as long as Israel's security needs require it.
Hezbollah is also refusing to halt attacks while Israel occupies Lebanese land. Could fighting there unravel the deal? Also tonight, how, inside Iran, the executions never stopped during the war. We hear the desperate final phone call of a 26-year-old. An explosive reminder tonight that Ukraine is bringing Russia's war to Moscow. Afghanistan's returnees, why millions have gone back to the country they fled. And why Scotland's Tartan army has found itself right at home in America's smallest state. All that is ahead in the world with me, Matt Barbet. Good evening. The US and Iranian presidents were more than 2,500 miles apart when each of them signed their memorandum of understanding last night. But even wider are the gaps between them on the issues that really need to be resolved to properly end the war. Can 60 days of talks do that? Well, this was the starting point. Donald Trump putting pen or Sharpie to paper in Versailles, where he was hosted by the French president. A stony-faced Masoud Pezeshkian signed the agreement in Tehran. Now, Trump was barely back in Washington when he branded critics of the framework deal jealous or stupid. The thing is, some of the harshest criticism is coming from Trump's own Republicans. Still, less than a day on, there's a trickle of progress. The first oil tankers have sailed through the Strait of Hormuz after the agreement. And as America formally reviews its forces in Europe, a reminder to friends it says failed to help in the war.
Too many of our allies said no, or tried to drown us in arcane legal debates, or criticized us publicly for doing what they aren't prepared or able to do themselves. It was shameful.
Well, shortly we'll head live to Switzerland, where initial talks are being planned to start tomorrow. First, our US correspondent Mark Stone examines the US-Iran agreement and the reaction to it.
So, the Iran deal, the 14-point memorandum of understanding. Both sides are, of course, spinning it as good for them. The US vice president has been doing that for a week now.
I think the president's peace plan in Iran is already bearing real fruits for the American people. Well, they've made very concrete nuclear commitments. The blockade is off. The straits are now open. Their military and their nuclear program is still destroyed.
And the remarkable sight of the Iranian president holding a document with the US president's signature on it tells us surely that he's happy to be seen with it too. Both sides then think it's good, which can't be quite right, or can it? Remember first that this isn't actually a deal. It's simply a commitment to get to a deal within 60 days, a timeline which both sides can mutually agree to extend. So in that sense, it's a kicking of the can. The document also commits to returning the Strait of Hormuz to its pre-war status, open, again, a good thing. Oil prices down, global markets up. But here, the US side is trumpeting a win by solving a situation which it caused in the first place. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz wasn't a pre-war problem. It was a symptom of the war. So what about the pre-war problems? Well, here, it's kind of bewildering to see how President Trump's original red lines and demands of Iran seem to have completely evaporated. First, regime change. Remember this?
To the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
Well, now that's gone. Totally. The same regime is now made up of good people, says Trump. And the document says both sides will respect each other's sovereignty. What about the ballistic missile program? Well, before the war,
we are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated.
And now, in this document, no mention at all of ballistic missiles. US intelligence say that most of the ballistic missiles in Iran remain intact, despite the US bombings. Vance, by the way, claims that that intel report is fake news. And in a complete U-turn now, Trump and his team say, why shouldn't Iran have ballistic missiles?
They have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some.
Then there's the nuclear program. Point 8 of the document says the Islamic Republic of Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. Trump says that's a big achievement, but it's not new. The Iranians have said that repeatedly for years. Believing them or not, well, that's another matter. And by the way, something the old Obama deal, which Trump ditched, dealt with an intrusive verification process. This document has no verification process built into it. It's left for future negotiations. The status of the highly enriched uranium still inside Iran, working out what to do with it, that too is left for the future. So back to the question, how this document is good for both sides. Well, for the Iranian regime, it's good because, first, they survived. This does not represent Iran's total defeat, which Trump once claimed he wanted. They survived with a missile program, with nuclear know-how, with enriched uranium, with regional proxies, battered, yes, but emboldened too, and they survived with newfound clout, leverage, the Strait of Hormuz. So much in here is deferred to a later date. So how's it good for America? Well, mainly because it brings a painful and hugely expensive war to an end for now, with shipping resumed and markets calmed. It's notable that the main selling point Trump and his team are making is that this will make life cheaper for Americans.
You really have a win-win situation for the United States of America.
Back to how it was before Trump's war of choice began.
Well, Israel has published a map showing an extended military control zone in southern Lebanon, saying it won't rule out attacks beyond those boundaries. It's a challenge to the terms of that US-Iran agreement, which calls for Lebanon's sovereignty to be respected. Israel has rejected calls from Iran to withdraw from the south of Lebanon, where its troops invaded in March in response to rockets fired by Hezbollah.
We will continue to navigate our path with wisdom and judgment. We will preserve the achievements of the government. We will preserve the achievements of the war. These are the achievements of the entire people of Israel. As we restore security and prosperity to the Gaza envelope, so will we restore security and prosperity to the communities of the north. This requires maintaining the security zone in southern Lebanon. It requires that we not leave there as long as Israel's security needs require it, because this zone separates Hezbollah's terrorists from our citizens and our communities.
Let's go live to David Blevins, our correspondent in Washington. Evening to you, David. The US Vice President had some words of his own for Israel today as well.
He did. His rebuke of the Israeli cabinet was unprecedented, really. J.D. Vance had been sent out to sell this deal when pressed on apparent contradictions between what the administration is saying and what's in the Memorandum of Understanding. Well, his answers were rather vague, but it's not just what's in the document that is causing concern for Democrats and Republicans. It's the fact that President Trump said at the end of the G7 summit that Iran could have ballistic missiles because other nations have them. When pressed on that, J.D. Vance said, we wouldn't ask Iran to surrender its right to self-defense because we wouldn't ask Israel to surrender its right to self-defense. Remarkable to hear the Vice President of the United States equate America's approach to Iran, its longtime enemy, with its approach to Israel, its longtime ally. Since then, in fact, President Trump has posted, we expect a complete ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon, Hezbollah and Israel. So when it comes to Israel right now, the United States isn't mincing its words. Let's just listen to what J.D. Vance had to say.
Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
Now, the Vice President went on to say that Gulf countries loved this deal but hated the Obama deal. But that's a false equivalence because, of course, Barack Obama actually secured an agreement. It's 159 pages long. The 3.5 pages of this document are little more than an agreement to keep trying to find an agreement. But Barack Obama appears to live rent-free in the heads of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. They talk about him all the time. And we heard from the former president because he was speaking at the opening of his own presidential library in Chicago. In fact, Donald Trump was the only surviving president not in attendance. He was joined by the Clintons and the Bushes and the Bidens, along with a host of celebrities like Bruce Springsteen. And I have to say, to hear Barack Obama again speak with such passion about the American vision of shared government, of the people, by the people, for the people, well, it brings the juxtaposition between his version of America and Donald Trump's version of America into sharp focus.
And David, just thinking about Mark's analysis of the points of this, the sort of before the war and after the war situation, it is a strange quirk, really, that the war has caused the relationship between the US and Israel to fray somewhat when, obviously, previously, it was in a lot better state.
And I suppose it is a further indication of how desperately Donald Trump needed to find an off-ramp, needed to get America out of the war because of the impact it was having on the domestic economy in this midterm election year. Mark talked about the fact that the big selling point for this deal appears to be the fact that it will bring down grocery prices and prices at the pump here in the United States. But at the end of the day, they don't appear to have secured an awful lot. They're claiming this deal, for example, will prevent Iran ever having a nuclear weapon. It doesn't do that. It simply buys them more time to try and negotiate a solution on that front. In many ways, you could say the only thing they have secured is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, the very thing that wasn't closed until the United States decided to go to war with Iran in the first place.
Quite. David, thank you very much indeed. Let's head live now to our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn, who is in Zurich, because it'll be all eyes on Switzerland tomorrow. Dom, take us through what is expected to happen.
Well, we're expecting to see the American Vice President, J.D. Vance, arrive here alongside Stephen Witkoff, his president's chief negotiator, and his other chief negotiator, Jared Kushner, also the president's son-in-law. They'll be meeting with Iranian counterparts, with Omani and Qatari mediators as well in Lucerne. So it really takes us right back to February, where in a different Swiss city we saw, without J.D. Vance, Witkoff and Kushner meeting Iranians, also alongside Omani mediators. And of course, back then, Witkoff and Kushner flew back to Washington. There were more talks scheduled for the next week, and Donald Trump decided that he would get more out of war than he would out of diplomacy, and he authorised the attack on Iran alongside the Israelis that then led to this war. And what a massive miscalculation that has turned out to be. It's cost the Americans at least $30 billion in terms of lost military forces and supplying this war. It has cost the Iranians thousands of people in lost lives, including 120 children killed on the first day by an American attack. The Americans have shamefully still not been able to bring themselves to admit they were responsible for. And most of all, it has cost, I think, America's standing in the world. And it has given the Iranians a new weapon, a very potent weapon they didn't have before, because their control of the Strait of Hormuz was always a theoretical one. But because their backs were against the wall, they then went all out to control that strait, and that gave them this sort of grip on the jugular, if you like, of the world economy, but they've been using very effectively since. So they go back in diplomacy, and it's a sort of awkward symmetry here for the Americans. These talks that began in February in Switzerland, they get picked up again at the end of this very costly war for the Americans. And the Iranians go into those talks with greater power than they did before, which I think is leading many people to be rather sceptical about what the Americans can get out of them this time. And this deal does not deal, in terms of the MOU, the agreement to begin talks again and have a 60-day period of ceasefire. It doesn't get into the nuclear issues yet. It's going to over the weekend. And you have to wonder what kind of mood the Iranians are going to be in to give concessions on that crucial nuclear issue, given that they are more hardline now, given that much of their leadership has been assassinated by Israel and America, but also because they do go into these negotiations with greater leverage thanks to that control of the Strait of Hormuz.
Greater leverage, perhaps. I wonder where trust levels are going to be at, Dom, because as you mentioned the last time they spoke, on the Iranian side, they were suggesting they were making progress. And of course, we refer back to when Donald Trump ripped up the nuclear agreement of Barack Obama, and the Iranians weren't particularly happy about that, or Donald Trump then. So are they going to be able to trust the Americans? Are they going to be able to trust each other?
Yeah, so the Americans have effectively tricked the Iranians, in their minds at least. First of all, as you say, Donald Trump pulling out of the JCPOA and then using diplomacy as a kind of cover to then attack them back last year and then again in February. And I've spoken to a number of Iranian diplomats in my various visits to Iran during the war and before. And they've also said that they are not prepared to get drawn into diplomacy again without very strong commitments for the Americans. They won't do that again. Now, they are getting drawn back into talks, but they feel that they have the upper hand. In terms of trust, I think it's going to be both sides kind of sounding each other out. I think supporters of this deal say that what it does is it offers inducements, financial inducements to the Iranians, inducements you would have thought the Iranian government really needs to pick up on because their economy was in a very bad state before the war. It led to these massive protests that they responded to very brutally back at the beginning of the year. It's in a much worse state now, of course. So you'd expect them to make the most of the billions being offered. The Americans say it's not American money. It's effectively being orchestrated by the Americans and their Gulf allies. And the idea behind the deal is that in return for those inducements, they play ball in terms of on the nuclear issue. And if you talk to some Iranian diplomats, they say that Iran is in the mood for a grand bargain where everybody recognises everybody in the Middle East and tries to put this behind them. I think skeptics would say, that's a lot of talk. And if you look at the Iranians in terms of what they've done in the past, they will try and take the money. They will use that to then rebuild their ballistic missile program. They'll use it to strengthen and renew the power and potency of their allies and proxies around the region, and they'll continue meddling. That, I think, is the jeopardy, and it's at what point the Americans decide that the Iranians are not acting in good faith. And if they do that, do they go back to attacking Iran, as Donald Trump has in the last couple of days threatened, knowing that if they do that, the Iranians will then exercise that Strait of Hormuz control all over again. So it's a very difficult game of sort of brinkmanship, potentially, very difficult diplomacy. The Iranians are better, more seasoned veteran negotiators than Vance, Witkoff and Kushner. So we'll have to see who gets the better of each other and whether 60 days is anywhere near long enough to try and resolve some of these very thorny issues at the heart of a conflict that goes back years, if not decades.
Dom in Switzerland, thank you very much indeed. We'll see more from you tomorrow. Next, we're going to speak to Ambassador Alan Pincus, who is a former Israeli Consul General in New York. He joins me now from Tel Aviv. Good evening to you. What's your reaction to this memorandum of understanding and the start of this 60-day negotiation?
Say again? I'm sorry, I didn't understand. I'm not sure where the question mark was.
What is your reaction to this MOU and the start of the 60 days?
Okay, look, a bad agreement always ensues a bad war. And this war was a colossal debacle. From an Israeli point of view, I leave the American side to both your reporters, especially Dominic, who made some points. From an Israeli point of view, none of the strategic objectives were attained. None were feasible to begin with, but that's a different conversation. And here we are in a situation where since Trump announced a ceasefire on April 8th, Israel basically has been sidelined. Its input has not been considered. It was not a part of these negotiations, however extensive or shallow they were.
Why is that, though? Is that down to Trump doing what Trump wants to do, or is that because of Israel's behaviour, decisions that Netanyahu has made?
No, it's an excellent question. That's exactly the point, Matt. It has to do with something that Trump is hesitant and reluctant to admit. Otherwise, he'll be exposed to criticism that he was dragged into this war by Mr. Netanyahu, and that is that he is disappointed, disillusioned, and livid that he was led by Mr. Netanyahu under false pretenses or under let's put it in a more mild way, in a milder way, basic assumptions that were disproven by reality. In the middle of February 11th to be exact, Mr. Netanyahu went to the White House, and then and there he reassured President Trump with the head of the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, the equivalent of MI6 or the CIA, in the background on a video screen. He assured Trump that the regime will collapse, that there will be a popular uprising, that Iran's nuclear program will be destroyed, that Iran's missile capabilities, both the production and the launching, would be destroyed, that Iran would never dare attack the Arab Gulf states, and that Iran is incapable of actually, or would be hesitant to even try and shut down the Strait of Hormuz. None of that happened, and I think Trump is disappointed because the war has been increasingly and largely unpopular in the U.S., including inside the Republican Party. So that explains his marginalization of Israel and his latest, expletive-laden announcement or statements about Mr. Netanyahu, and what you just showed a moment ago, J.D. Vance.
Yeah, look, expletive-laden, absolutely, in terms of what he thought about Benjamin Netanyahu a couple of weeks ago. I mean, more recently, yesterday, he said that Israel could use a softer touch in Lebanon. I mean, people hearing him say softer touch will think about the 1 million people who've been displaced in southern Lebanon. There have been new airstrikes even today. Regardless of what Donald Trump says, it looks like he's just being ignored by the Israeli government.
That is partially true, Matt. The Israeli government, there's a paradox here, which we don't have time to delve into. For years, Mr. Netanyahu claimed that Iran and Lebanon and other proxy organizations working at the behest of Iran, particularly the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, it's one front. And once the Iranians said, okay, Lebanon is part of the deal, Mr. Netanyahu played as if he's shocked and rolled his eyes and said, Lebanon, that's a different arena. That's a different theater altogether. But going back to your question, yes, look, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Israel escalated purposely, advertently, deliberately, escalated things in Lebanon with the hope of derailing or undermining the deal with Lebanon.
But Alan, let me just finish by perhaps taking a different perspective that others in Israel may have. I appreciate you're sat in Tel Aviv this evening. You may not feel at risk from Hezbollah there, or do you? Or do you feel at risk from Hamas? Do other Israelis feel there is still that risk and they would support what the Israeli government is doing?
No, I mean, there's no risk. There's no physical risk from Hamas. There's a potential risk from Hezbollah, particularly if you live in the northern part of Israel, which is 100 or 120 kilometers away from Tel Aviv. But you're absolutely right. But look, there's a cumulative effect here. Mr. Netanyahu failed in eliminating Hamas and total victory, as he proclaimed in Gaza. He failed in eliminating, eviscerating what he called Hezbollah in Lebanon. And more importantly and more critically, he failed in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win a war with Iran. So Israelis feel disillusioned. They feel misled by Netanyahu. But there's also, I have to say, there's also a lot of anger and frustration in Israel with Trump. You know, a lot of people saying, okay, he didn't go all the way. He didn't do what needs to be done. But that's politics. In the end, people are frustrated.
There has been a term for it, Alan. I'm sure you've heard of taco, being that Trump always chickens out. I wonder if that is being uttered in Israeli households.
Yeah. I mean, you know, falafel is a bigger thing than taco, but yes, taco is a big thing here. Yeah.
Appreciate your time, Alan Pincus. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, man.
Well, the other war that President Trump promised to end is the one happening in Ukraine. It still rages on, though, and today Moscow was hit by one of the biggest Ukrainian drone attacks since the war began. Our Moscow correspondent, Ivor Bennett, has this.
Moscow, like you've never seen it. Russia's war is coming home. The city awoke to huge clouds of thick black smoke across the skyline after a massive Ukrainian drone attack. The target was an oil refinery just 10 miles from the Kremlin. It's the second time this week that it's been hit. The attack even blew the lid off an oil storage tank. The vast white disc was tossed into the sky like a paper plate. And according to local media, nearby cars were covered in smears of oil after a rain shower. It's part of a wider campaign to slash the Kremlin's oil revenues and put a dent in its war chest. Kyiv also wants Russians to feel the effect of Moscow's invasion, as it aims to show that the tide is turning.
Our long-range sanctions are hitting Russian oil facilities, refineries very, very effectively. And Russia is already facing fuel shortages, and that federal budget revenues are falling significantly. And at the same time, our mid-range strikes are seriously disrupting Russian military logistics. But Putin is not stopping this war. He insists on continuing it, so the pressure must grow.
It doesn't look like Vladimir Putin is feeling the pressure just yet. He's been in Kazan, 500 miles east of Moscow, hosting leaders from Southeast Asia. The Kremlin denies Ukraine has the advantage and, for now, is still playing hardball when it comes to peace talks.
All of this doesn't make personal contacts between the head of the Kyiv regime and our president closer. It doesn't make them closer.
But on the streets of Moscow, a very different feeling. There is fear and frustration.
I think it's terrible. It's absolutely unacceptable. How much closer can they get? It's going to fall on our heads soon. What's good about that?
What do I think? The same as everyone else. It's terrible. I wish none of this had happened.
After nearly 4.5 years, the consequences of Russia's war are increasing. And Ukraine hopes it'll bring peace closer. Ivor Bennett, Sky News.
This is The World. I'm Matt Barbet. Coming up after the break, why millions of Afghans have been forced to return to their home country in recent years.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be all out to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... Hi, darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
...is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in an area that's just been reclaimed. Mr. Zuma, Sky News. People are directly protesting.
The whole neighborhood is rallied around her. It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan.
I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty. War isn't pretty.
Millions of Afghans have been returning to their country in recent years, largely, though, not by choice. The UN Migration Agency says between September of 2023 and May of this year, so just under 3 years, more than 6 million Afghans went back to their country from Pakistan and Iran. It was in 2023 that Pakistan introduced its illegal foreigners repatriation plan, which has driven much of the sharp rise, while Iran committed to deporting 2 million Afghan migrants by the start of 2025. I'm pleased to say joining me in the studio now is Mia Park, Chief of Mission of the International Organization for Migration in Afghanistan. Good evening. Thanks for coming in. It's a huge number, 6 million people. If you put it in context of the population of Afghanistan, it's around 10 to 15% of an influx. And it's interesting that a lot of these people haven't been in Afghanistan for an awfully long time. So it's both a shock to the country and its system and a shock for them as well.
Mm-hmm. So we say that Afghanistan faced compounded risk pressure. So high return is one of them. As you said, at least 10% of population increase in last 3 years to already very fragile environment. And then in addition, Afghanistan faces climate shocks, so consecutive years of drought, frequent flood, and then we have seen 2 major earthquakes in the last 3 years as well. And then the economic constraints, as well as persistent protection risks. So that 10% coming back to Afghanistan, these people, most of the time, come back with not much. So they have very little of financial capital. And as you said, because a lot of these households have been living abroad in Pakistan or Iran.
Yeah.
So when they return, it's basically returning to a country that they're not familiar with. So it's some people have never been to Afghanistan. They were born in different countries. So if you can imagine coming back to this country where it's very difficult to navigate.
Yes.
And the society is very fragile. It's very, very challenging for a lot of these people.
I have been myself during the war and know full well that a lot of people living there don't necessarily feel Afghan themselves. They are more aligned along tribal boundaries, depending on which part of the country you're in, which presents another challenge, doesn't it? If people are being repatriated, do they automatically go back to where they came from, or are they having to be homed in Kabul or Kandahar or other places?
So when people return, the place they're looking for is where they can get livelihood opportunities. That's the most important part. So then naturally they go to the major cities or the border area. So while we and the Afghan authorities try to encourage people to return to where they were originally from, but a lot of times there are no jobs out there. And because of consecutive years of drought, it's very difficult for them to build their livelihoods. So you'll see a majority of them in the major cities.
And look, we've talked about the environmental problems, we've talked about societal, we haven't mentioned the Taliban yet. And look, you will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing in Pakistan and Iran not wanting these people around, they were made to feel unwelcome. How are they being treated by the Taliban when, for many of them, the country would have changed beyond all recognition from when they left?
The de facto authority, the relevant authority in Afghanistan, their stand is that they welcome the Afghans back. For them, it's important to show to the world that they're able to govern and able to take care of their own people. But of course, it's extremely difficult. 10% of a sudden increase in population, no country can have that absorption capacity.
No.
But there's an effort from the Taliban as well as requesting a lot of efforts from the international community.
But there are some things that are going to be vastly different from how these people were living in Pakistan or Iran. The one obvious one is education for girls. I think I'm right in saying that today is the 1,734th day since the Taliban banned girls from being educated. Does it mean that there are girls going back, perhaps, to their parents and suddenly they're not going to be educated now?
Exactly. So the kind of world that they knew before and the world that when they returned to Afghanistan is completely different. That's why it's very important to provide assistance where we can. And the role of UN and IOM as the UN's migration agency is very important because we're the one who can access these women and girls and be able to provide the support they need.
Mia, I want to finish off by asking not about what the US has or hasn't done in regards to Afghanistan in recent years, but whether it feels to you in your position like the rest of the world has slightly forgotten the issue. They'll hear the numbers and they'll just think, well, Afghanistan is a problem, has always been a problem. We've got other things to worry about right now with, well, Iran potentially being sorted out, who knows, Ukraine and other conflicts around the world. Has Afghanistan fallen off the agenda?
That's our fear.
Yeah.
And I think for Afghan women and girls, that is the biggest fear. They need the international community to be standing with them. And whenever I ask and meet with Afghan girls and women, the number one fear is not other things, but that they would be forgotten. So it's very important for us to be able to remember them and make sure that we stand with them and support when we can.
Mia Park, appreciate you joining us here on The World this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, returning to Iran now, and a Sky News investigation has revealed that throughout the war, the Iranian regime ramped up a campaign of fear and repression against its own people. Human rights groups say dozens of politically motivated executions were carried out as part of sustained attempts by the leadership to intimidate citizens through forced confessions and death sentences. Our international correspondent John Sparks has this report.
For the people of Iran, life in the shadows seems like the safest place to be. Hostile planes and airstrikes have posed a constant threat, but their own leaders present a greater risk. All-powerful and unchecked, it's a threat that grows darker every day. Citing the war with the US and Israel as justification, the regime has ramped up repression at home. Thousands of people have been branded traitors and spies, with so-called confessions broadcast nightly on state TV.
با کسی همکاری کردم که آدمکشی براش عین آب خوردن.
And according to civil rights groups, the regime has carried out dozens and dozens of politically motivated executions, part of a concerted effort to create and spread fear. Here, a woman confesses to the nation. She shared a protest video online.
You get to that point, you wish to be dead because you wish to end those suffering. And there is nothing else. You can see any other way out of that situation. except death.
This is 26-year-old Nasser Bakarzadeh. A member of the Kurdish minority, he was working in a phone shop when he was accused of spying for Israel. His case was overturned twice due to the lack of legal evidence. But during massive anti-government protests in January, the allegations against Bakarzadeh were reintroduced, and the revolutionary court sentenced him to death. This an attempt to intimidate the protesters, say critics. Bakarzadeh made a confession on national TV. He said he took some photos of sensitive places. But if you look closely, you can see he's reading from a script, and you see him glancing nervously to the side. These are clear indications of a forced confession. But the 26-year-old was able, for a brief moment, to speak freely. A friend recording his final phone call from jail.
من ناصر بکرزاده هستم و صدای منو از زندان مرکزی ارومیه میشنوید. شاید این آخرین صدای من باشه.
Bakarzadeh's distress, his dismay, is self-evident.
اعدام منو کشت، متلاشی کرد و هر لحظه مردن خودم رو میبینم و خانوادم رو از پادر آورده. از کنار این کلمه اعدام ساده رد نشید. امروز نوبت منه، فردا نوبت یکی دیگه. به داد من برسید. من اولین نیستم و آخرینم نخواهم بود.
He was executed 2 days after this phone call was made. We met a man who knows what it's like to be in that situation, an Iranian refugee who now lives in Frankfurt.
Most of them are young. I can't hear those audio recordings.
You don't want to listen to them.
When I try to listen, I'm done.
Mazyar Ibrahimi was accused of working for Israel after the assassination of 4 Iranian nuclear scientists during the previous decade. Imprisoned for a total of 26 months, he says the torture began on the very first night.
Painful. They hang you with handcuffs. They beat you with wood. They tied you on a bed with cable all over your body. یکی با این کاب میزنه کف این کف.
Ibrahimi demonstrated these methods for a documentary film crew. Torture techniques designed to break his will, as well as various parts of his body. He was also subjected to 3 mock executions.
I don't know how there is a machine or somebody pulling it, because always my eyes are blocked.
You're blindfolded.
Yeah. It's not completely done. They just push it, or I don't know. Just you feel it, you know. In bottom of my heart, from bottom of my heart, I wish they do it.
His interrogators weren't trying to extract the truth. They wanted a false confession, which he provided in this slick production, written by the Iranian intelligence ministry.
ما را اعزام کردن به اسرائیل و در اونجا آموزش کار با مواد منفجره و آموزش‌های نظامی تیراندازی رو دیدیم.
His performance was coached and coerced by his interrogators.
And they say, show yourself a little bit more happy and active, you know. But when you took a close look at that video, here I have all sweating on my head. And there was a guy on my left side with a box of tissues to just clean my head up.
Eventually, Ibrahimi was released after rival intelligence agencies squabbled over the case, and he managed to make his way to Germany. But he's been deeply marked by the experience.
I can understand myself. I can understand people who are now getting executed in Iran and getting tortured in Iran.
You understand that?
I feel them every day, every night.
Civil rights groups say at least 44 politically motivated executions have been carried out since the US-Israeli bombing began, while an additional 78 protesters, dissenters and others have been sentenced to death. More than 6,000 people have been subjected to arbitrary arrest, with the head of the judiciary ordering his officials to speed up convictions.
هم در رابطه با مصادره اموال هم در رابطه با صدور حکم اعدام اینا رو واقعا تسریع بکنید.
The time from when they arrest individuals, have prosecuted them, issued death sentences, and in the case of death penalty cases, carried out the death sentences, the time periods have been shockingly short, from just weeks to maybe a couple of months.
Orders have been given out to intentionally accelerate.
In the judiciary, yes.
سلام مردم ایران. من مهراب عبدالله‌زاده هستم. شاید این آخرین صدای من باشه که میشنوید.
Mehrab Abdullahzadeh was a barber, arrested in his shop during national anti-government protests in 2022. Accused of attacking a paramilitary, he said he was tortured for 38 days before agreeing to give a confession.
روز اول دستگیری به زور شکنجه و تهدید از من اعترافاتی گرفتن که همشون کذب بود و هیچ کدام از اتهام‌هایی که اونا به من زدن حقیقت نداره.
You're listening to a recording of his last known phone call.
من بیگناهم، برای من پرونده سازی شده. صدای من باشید و صدای منو به کل دنیا برسونید.
He's interrupted.
این تماس از زندان ارومیه و تماس گیرنده زندانی می باشد.
He's got just a few seconds left.
هموطنان عزیزم، دوستتون دارم. به امید آزادی، مهراب عبدالله‌زاده.
Before sunrise on May 2nd, he was taken to the execution chamber at Urmia Central Prison and hanged. There is safety in the shadows, but there is also much fear. Forced confessions, sham trials, near daily executions, the work of theocrats and hard men bent on their own survival. And they have seen off the Americans. They have terrified their own people. But their actions will only deepen the feeling of resentment. John Sparks, Sky News.
First Minister, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Nice to see you.
How are you feeling? Looking forward to getting into the parliamentary chamber.
Are you any further forward to making a decision?
No, it's an important day today.
All of the claims were in line with my parliamentary duties, so I'm making that clear to you, Connor.
He was a Scot through and through.
He was a very good politician.
Alex Salmond was controversial, he was a disruptor, but above all, he was respected.
Will you resign if you lose this week?
Again, I'm not planning to, of course, lose the vote of no confidence. I'm planning to win that vote of no confidence.
His face said it all.
My intention to stand down as party leader.
This is now a storm with deadly consequences. How are they feeling?
They're a bit scared at the minute.
We've been told to evacuate.
How are you feeling?
Devastated.
Hundreds of homes were wiped out by flooding. I'm Connor Gillis, Sky's Scotland correspondent.
It was probably the darkest time in my life.
Scott is 5 years sober after a cocaine addiction left him close to death.
Scotland has a shameful record. Worse than England, the worst in Europe.
Why not just say you failed? Because then you might get more respect from families who've lost loved ones. This is where one of the UK's most prolific rapists thought he'd got away with murder.
Sky News can reveal that former sex workers had told police he was sexually violent.
My Emma.
Free wherever you get your news.
It's over, isn't it?
The Americans say he is Rossi, a fraudster.
This has been one of the most bizarre cases ever heard in a courtroom in this country.
A dangerous murderer.
Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive Andrew Ennis after this?
She said she can forgive him, but as long as he's behind bars.
By doing the right thing, it's destroyed your life.
They terrorised me. They intimidated me. I'm so grateful.
Sky News, the full story first.
I bet right now
you often find yourself asking why. Why was a certain decision taken? Why did something happen? Why did they say or do that? I'm Neil Patterson, and it's my job as a journalist to find out why. Just explain why.
It's a difficult one.
Well, I mean, it's massive.
It's a very, very severe situation.
So if you want to make sense of this complicated world, Sky News' new podcast, This Is Why, is your daily fix. One story every day, and we can find out why together. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes? They'll be allowed to war. I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... My darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
Now we have a bit of time to check in on the World Cup. Scotland are gearing up for their next match against Morocco tomorrow in Boston. It's a tough one, and the Tartan Army is already out in force. And the neighbouring, very small state, the smallest in fact, of Rhode Island. Let's head live to James Matthews, who is in the main city of Rhode Island, it's Providence. James, good to see you. What are the vibes? Look, I'm already seeing a man in a kilt behind you, which tells me you're in the right place.
That's right, yeah, amongst the native species, Matt. I mean, it's Mac Providence for this week and next, however long Scotland remain in this competition, I suppose. I'm at one of the main parks. We have seen today a parade half-mile through this city. There's Providence, several thousand Tartan Army here, and Boston, of course, with the stadium, well, closest to the stadium. That's where the rest of the Scotland supporters are. Let's speak to some of them. Hello, girls. How you're here supporting Scotland. What do you make of how they're doing?
Sorry?
What do you make of how Scotland are doing? How are they doing?
They're doing really well, I think, but it's going to be tough, but it's all right. I think we're still going to win.
Yeah, what do you think? Because Morocco, they're better than Haiti, yeah?
I've never really watched Morocco, but I think it'll be a tough game. But if we keep fighting and do what we normally do, then we'll win.
That's the spirit. Let me see your keepy-uppies. You're playing football. Let's come on, both have a go and let's see who wins. 5, very good. Oh, wow. 6. You know what? I'm sure you can do more than that. But we need to move on. In fact, you know what? Let's go this way because one of Rhode Island's finest is waiting to talk to us. Much talk, Matt, about the impact that this has had on the local people. Samantha. Hi, Samantha. Hi. Thank you for agreeing to have a brief chat. Tell me, there's much chat about how this is all going down with the locals. How's this going down with you?
Great. I think everyone's been great. I think all the Scottish people have been awesome. Everyone's been nice.
Yeah. I suppose, I mean, I'm Scottish, and I look at this and I think, wow, this, you know, the infrastructure around this, the support, charity donations.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's grown arms and legs.
Heartwarming. Yeah, it's heartwarming. Everything they did for Hasbro and everything like that has been great.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks for keeping us all safe. There you go. I mean, there's a measure of the impact that all this has had on the local population, Matt, because today it's been announced Boston is twinning with Glasgow. Clearly they appreciate these kind of scenes and this kind of vibe. And as I mentioned there, charity donations. I was at the Hasbro Children's Hospital earlier on today. There are registered Tartan Army charities, and they were donating $10,000 to the Children's Cancer Ward. So they make an impression, both in spectacle and in deed, I suppose. Let's speak to some of the guys here. Hello, gents.
How you doing?
How are you getting on?
Yeah, good. How you doing?
Tell me, it all comes down to the football. Eventually, 24 hours from now, how do you see that going?
Morocco versus Scotland. Obviously, I think Scotland. Well, Scotland's probably going to win.
I'd hope they'd win, but we never know.
Sixth in the world against 42nd in the world, and we're not sixth. What do you make of tomorrow?
Well, I reckon they got the FIFA rankings wrong. Yeah, but I think we'll give them a good game tomorrow. I think we're up for it. I think they'll be tired after their efforts they put in against Brazil, and we'll be fresh. We haven't peaked yet.
Let's see about that. Talk to me about the Tartan Army, because this is actually quite something, isn't it? The numbers that are here. Briefly, tell me, mate, what for you is the beauty of something like this?
It's the togetherness. It's everybody being together, having a good time. The sun's out, we're all drinking beer. Everybody's having a good time, basically. Essentially, I'm going for 1-1 tomorrow night as well. So
1-1, the height of ambition, eh?
Yeah, I'll bite your hand off for a draw right now, really.
Yeah, thanks very much. Enjoy the day, enjoy the game, lads. So there you go. It's all very feel-good, Matt. The pipes and drums playing on the stage. I don't know, 2,000-3,000, maybe more here, out enjoying the sun between the games. And of course, it all comes down to the football against Morocco tomorrow. They beat Haiti last week 1-0. That was the easiest game. Scotland, they probably need to squeak a point, I reckon.
James, we are out of time. Enjoy the match. The world returns on Monday. Bye for now.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in an area that's just been reclaimed. Mr. Zuma, Sky News. People are directly protesting.
The whole neighbourhood has rallied around her.
It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan.
I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty. War isn't pretty.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect. Let's bring you some breaking news.
Being a Sky News presenter.
I began by asking,
Thank you so much.
trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10.
Sky News has been given exclusive access.
Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget.
Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?